Now, when can I tell my supervisor, Mr. Robinson, to expect payment?
This is Talk and Audio.
Away we go on an all-new episode of the Talk and Audio podcast, not in our studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada. One of the TCA satellite studios down here in Bobcaygeon, Ontario, but on the wrong side of it. I'm sitting here, it's Matt Robinson, as it always is, alongside a new voice on the podcast. My cousin Brandon Robinson's here. What's happening, man?
Oh, just enjoying a beautiful day lakeside here.
But the wrong side of the lakeside cottage.
That is true.
We've been pushed out. The kiddies are enjoying the dock and the water and the tubing and would almost certainly be onto the microphones if we were around on the lakeside, right? Singing and whatever else.
And as a father, I quite frankly prefer them on that side than this side.
There is someone watching them over there. That's not supposed to be us right now.
That's true, yes. No, there are some grandparents sitting on that side of the lake with them. And yeah, no, I'm not that much of a negligent father, although my wife might say otherwise.
We are on social media at Talk and Audio. Give us a follow there. Love to hear what you guys have to say. And make sure you're subscribed to the pod wherever you're hearing us right now. And look, you and I actually talked about doing one of these maybe in the first 2 years of the podcast. We were still up at 17 there in Harcourt. I think I had set up the rig in my parents' trailer in the driveway. And your daughter Claire decided, yeah, you know what? Not going to sleep at the time that we thought she was going to sleep, and by the time she did, it was past podcast time, right?
Nice.
There's sort of a sweet spot after you've had a couple of drinks. You're like, now's a good time to do this, and then another drink or two, you're like, let's not do this.
No, that's where some of those podcasts that you've referred to end up on the cutting room floor and never see the light of day.
For sure, those will get released at some point on the pay-per-view side
the
of
lost tapes of Talk and
exactly
Audio.
For sure. We'll get that done at some point. Look, a bunch of stuff we're going to get into here today, but we always start with the beers. What'd you go with there today?
I pulled out something from Kick Push Brewing Company, Cerveza.
Nice.
I'm not 100% sure how to say this. It's got a license plate on as a logo.
That's like MX.
Yeah, 287.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a reference there.
That's it. I don't know what it is either.
Yeah,
but it's a nice beer. I've had that one. So that's in Charbot Lake as you're kind of coming into Ottawa.
Well, I did that drive many a times.
Yeah, exactly. No. And so they've just opened in the last year or two. Finally got in there a couple months ago. That was one of the ones I've grabbed and had a couple of on a hot day like this. Gorgeous, right? Is a Mexican lager like that. So I don't know the reference either, the MX 287, but I know it's a good beer. I'm going with something from our buddy Andy at the Need a Beer Company. This is one I think I referred to on the first podcast after the infamous 40th birthday party there at the Need a Beer Company, which was probably your last drive to Ottawa. The last time you were up was for that. But it was one that we sat down when we first arrived. Andy came out and he's like, got something for you guys to sample, right? Brought out the little, whatever you call them, right? It's escaping me right now when you go into a brewery, a flight.
Yep.
It was bringing in the flight glasses. And so it was this new coconut blonde, because he knows I love his coconut brown. So he had rushed to get this done in time for the party.
He knows you. He's got you down.
He had it pegged for sure, man. And I think there was one or two of you guys, though, sort of looking at it, not necessarily afraid of the coconut flavor, but there was still some chunks floating in it, right?
It was interesting.
It was fresh. I chose that.
I'm not saying I haven't had things in my beer before, but
no. It's like an orange juice pulp,
exactly.
basically.
That's what it seemed like. Yeah,
So,
it went down smooth that night.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And so he had rushed to finish that in time for us to have the party there, and then on the way out the door, he handed me another 6-pack to just take with me. So I had saved those to bring up here, to the lake. Nice summer beer, and in my opinion, I know it's not your thing, it's not everybody's thing, but this is the Coconut Blonde from the Need a Beer Company.
Nice. He also had a limited edition watermelon sour that I was really enjoying while I was there. So if anybody's out and about, I know he's got a limited run of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was, I thought it was a fantastic flavor there that he had going.
Quick kick and push, Highway 7 on your way into Ottawa, Need a Beer Company, 190 Colonnade Road, both worth checking out. The Kick and Push brewery itself, it's kind of neat, just it's got like a little cabin feel to it, just on the side of Highway 7. You walk in, it's like a house kind of thing, and the day we were there, it didn't look like the owner or the brewer was there. It was just a young girl kind of working the counter, and But spoken to a couple people who said, yeah, when you go in, if the owners are around, and we're roughing it here right at the studio, people can probably hear the air conditioner kicking up next door. But if you go in, yeah, the brewer's normally pretty happy to just sit and chat with you and whatever. So
that's the sign of a good place, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you want. You want to interact with the owners and kind of get a local feel when you go in, and that's what you got at Nita. And if you go down to Old Dog here in Bob Cajun,
they got 2 new ones out I'm looking to try while I'm here down in Bob Cajun. One's a tropical IPA, I believe it was. I can't remember the other one. I've been on the website. But, yeah, before I'm out of here, I'll be stopping by there
We'll have
again.
to figure out the Uber situation in Birch Point, right? Like
It's not great. Mom?
yeah.
40 years old, still calling for a lift home. It happens.
Whatever gets you there. Right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
man. So I got to ask you as we start here, all the talk on Twitter, and maybe we should talk about Twitter in a second, apparently going to be renamed here coming up because Elon Musk, it's nothing like spending $44 billion on one of the most well-known tech companies in the world, running it into the ground and then renaming
Rebranding it?
Yeah, great call. Maybe we'll get to that in a bit. But all the talk this weekend has been about a resurgence in trips to the movie theater. And I'm curious, because I know you're a girl dad, right? You got a young girls running around out there playing with a couple young friends right now. Have you yet been asked to go to the theater for the Barbie movie?
No, I have not.
Are you expecting to be asked?
I am fully expecting, as a father of a daughter that is into Barbies. Mm-hmm. I'm fully waiting for that question to come. And my kids are big into the theater scene. They like to go, and whether it's to actually see a movie, because we have a pretty sweet home setup.
Sure do.
I think it's more the snacks that they get.
That's the only thing that makes me want to go. It's the popcorn. And
well, when's the last time you actually went to a movie theater?
It's got to be 2012, 2013.
Wow.
So this has nothing to do with the pandemic. I just kind of stopped going, right? It was either Moneyball, so that might be 2011, something like that.
You're really going back. You're throwing...
And maybe Yogi Bear. I went and saw.
I couldn't even peg that for a date.
Same time frame, 2012, maybe.
Yogi Bear and Moneyball are at the same time frame? That seems...
It was a remake of whatever. And the only thing I remember about the Yogi Bear movie, because I went with other adult friends, I have no idea why we did. There was no kid involved. And the only thing I remember from the stupid movie is he's in some like jalopy of a self-made plane.
Okay.
And he's like, it's crashing. He's like, quick, check the emergency instructions. And he opens it up and all it says is, scream! For some reason, I thought that was really funny, but that's the only thing I remember from the movie. Other than that, yeah, it was Moneyball. So I haven't been in a long time. But this weekend, I'm probably not interested in Barbie, right? I'm not going to be asked to go do that, I don't think. But Oppenheimer also came out.
That looks awesome.
It looks really cool,
Yeah,
right?
I would love
And so
to
to have
see that.
2 of them come out on the same weekend after there'd been all this talk about, is the movie theater thing dying? You know, things come out now on Prime or Apple TV so fast that is it even worth paying for, you know, the movie theater thing. To have 2 of them kind of pop up on one weekend. And there's like lots of people posting on their social media, like doing the double in one night, right?
Wow.
Going to Barbie at 7, sticking around at 9:30 for Oppenheimer. I don't know, man. I'm intrigued by it. The only other one, it was actually only a couple months ago. None of my nieces and nephews were interested in inviting me. I would have went and saw Super Mario as well. That was out there
so
not too long
we
ago.
did see Super
Yeah?
Mario.
Was it
we
good?
We were on a family vacation down in Florida.
Right.
And we went and put the time in for that. That was like one of the requirements of going to Florida for some reason.
Was to see Super Mario?
Yeah.
You know it was on in Lindsay.
Oh,
right?
I know, 100% it was. Oh, but if you went to the Lindsay movie theater,
Yeah.
it is
Get
a
towed.
it's a throwback theater. Like there is not, you're fighting for seats. It's there's no video games out in the lobby. There's none of that.
Right.
You sit outside on the street and you wait until they let you in, and you rush to your seats because there's only like
12.
yeah,
It's a
100%.
small theater.
There was a father that I forget. I went and saw a movie recently with my son, and lined up. It was whatever the movie was. It was a big movie.
Sure.
And the seats were very limited. There was a poor father that did not get to sit with his kids. Like he was lining them up with other families. Like that's just
Please
how.
watch my child.
Exactly.
I'll be out on the
One is
side.
here. One is there.
Yeah.
One is here. He's sitting in the back, and there was not. That would probably be, honestly, for me, the last time I will ever go to that theater.
Right.
Because now, if you do, like you said, if you haven't gone in so long, a theater is now like a lounge.
Yeah.
So they've got recliner seats.
Yeah.
You pre-pick your seat.
They'll bring you a beer at your seat. They can bring you an actual meal instead of popcorn. But I kind of just want the popcorn.
Oh, that's, if I'm going, and you're spending like $30 to $40 when you're taking just two people
ahead. Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy, but
we looked.
It's still the experience, right?
Yeah,
like, there's still something. And again, I got a really sick home setup.
Yep.
But there's still something about being around other people and seeing a movie
other
when it comes
people are
out.
overrated.
Well, yeah.
But one of the points, I was reading an article this morning that was like, this is maybe the first weekend in a really long time that might make the point to the movie industry. Like, these are both standalone part one movies. It's not Iron Man 2 or a saga of one of the Star Wars. And those
Top
are fine.
Gun.
Like, all that stuff. Like, they do really well, but maybe people are ready for new stories, right? Like, and Barbie to come out like this one that's a 70-year-old brand, and they've never, to my knowledge, ever done like a movie. So like, the story is here, the history is there. People will go with their mothers, with their grandmothers, with their aunts, and like, this has been a huge thing. It's also a thing that people have tried to politicize, like, it's so feminist. Like, it's a Barbie movie. It was probably going to be geared toward girls if you went there looking for, I don't know, chase scenes and whatever. Yeah. That was probably not the right movie for you. But it's just interesting to see that on this one weekend, two original first run kind of, as opposed to the sequels or the prequels or 100%. Whatever else.
You're seeing tons of like Instagram stories and TikToks about it. And like, there's even, I saw one this morning about there's this guy, he gets out, he's so, for lack of a better term, hood. He's going into the movie theater, and he's like getting out, and somebody rolls up and like, hey, what are you going to see? And he's kind of like hunched down like, oh, Barbie. Like, that's it. And then they pull off, and they're going to make fun of him.
Yeah.
They get out of the car, and they're wearing pink, and they're wearing Barbie, and they're all going in, right? And you're like, okay, well, so this is a big deal, right?
Yep.
It's everywhere right
apparently
now.
Gearing up to be, it's not going to be the biggest movie ever, but this is geared up with Oppenheimer to be like the fourth biggest weekend in movie history in the U.S. between the two of them launching together. It's on pace for something like $400 million opening weekend, which is,
that's a big deal.
For sure. So, am I super interested in going to see Barbie? Not really, but if one of my nieces asked me to, would I shut them? I don't really care, right? Like, I don't care. What it sounds like I didn't even know. I asked my sister today, what is this about? Like, I know it's about Barbie, but like, what is the plot that they've chosen? And she said it's something like Barbie leaves the Barbie world to go into the real world.
That's what I've read too, is that it kind of, maybe the real world encroaches into her world,
right,
and kind of shakes things up.
Right.
So it sounds interesting, right? And you kind of want to
You'll be able to let me know. It sounds like you'll be going.
I would imagine I will be. Yeah. No, a girl that loves her Barbies is definitely going to want to see this movie, right?
100%. So,
and it's got some good Canadian content, like Ryan Gosling's in it. So, a lot of women want it. Yeah, he's Canadian.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I've been hearing nothing but Brian Reynolds for 6 months in Ottawa. So I know he's Canadian.
And Gosling's got like a great origin story, right? Like, he was a Mickey Mouse Club guy.
Oh, yeah.
Was...
with Brittany
but he was living with JT when they were kids. Like, his parents, his parents were like looking after him because he needed to be in the US to film it, right?
Right, okay.
So they were like stepbrothers basically, which is kind of
hockey billet parents.
Billet parents, like, that's kind of a crazy origin story, right?
Yeah.
But he's in it, and Margot Robbie, who is just like amazing actress. So in my opinion, she's good looking too.
Sure,
so that doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt. No.
But I think she's a great actress. So
okay,
looking forward to it.
Yep, you'll be able to give us a review here, down the road on how all that played out. How's the first few sips of the cerveza treating you there?
I like it. It's light, great summer beer. Can't complain, really.
No, and this one I already know I enjoyed. I was actually, you and I have been trying to pin down a time to do this for a day or two. So yesterday afternoon, I had 2 or 3 of these. I'm like, hey, you have to stop now because you have to save at least 1 or 2 for the show. So, but this is one of those ones, I've said it 1,000 times on the podcast. Don't hint at it. If you say it's going to be coconut, bring the coconut, and this is bringing the coconut. So if you like that, you'll like this. If you're sort of on the fence about the coconut thing, it's probably not going to be your style, because he's coming strong with it, which I like, but not everybody does.
That's 100%. Like, if they're going to throw chunks of coconut in it, then obviously it's going to hit you right in the face, right?
It's funny because the first time he made the Mr. Brown has gone coconut, which was the brown ale. I tried it back in 2016, 2017. I think at the time it was new. And it was made with just like a coconut artificial sweetener, like it wasn't real coconut. And I loved it. And then when he first switched to doing it real, I was kind of like, I don't love this as much. And I said that to him, and he said, there are people saying that. He said, you're not the only one. But the real one was a little more subtle, whereas like you just pour a bag of coconut artificial sweetener.
It's going to punch it.
Punches it way up. And so I gradually got used to that. And this one, though, this feels stronger than it does in the brown. So again, if you're not sure because of the coconut thing, trust that instinct. But if you're a coconut person, you'll enjoy this one, definitely. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that went on down out in Seattle this week. As you and I are sitting here right now, the Jays have lost the first 2 out of 3. They're playing the third one right now, so we have no idea how that's going to play out, but the bullpen has cost them twice. I really just wanted to speak to you, though, about the idea that last week the Seattle Mariners put in their store a bunch of Blue Jays gear. And if you're not familiar with this phenomenon, the Jays go to Seattle only once a year. And because Rogers Sportsnet broadcasts across the country, fans in Western Canada who never get to see the Jays live, but who watch them all summer on TV go, well, shit, I can get to Seattle. So everyone in BC, everyone in Alberta who are big Jays fans, they flood this stadium. It is unrecognizable for the weekend that the Jays come. And so Seattle, I guess this year, and I don't know, it's fair enough, decided, well, if you bastards are coming, we're going to make some money off you, right? Like, we're going to get the stuff from the MLB, we'll put it on sale, mark it up a little bit. Now, I think if I knew I was going from Vancouver or Victoria or Kelowna or whatever down to Seattle on this week, I probably would have already bought my Jays hat or my jersey or whatever. But you never know, right? You get there, you kind of get swept up in the moment, and maybe you are willing to go drop some cash. But some of the Mariners players didn't like it. A lot of the Mariners fans didn't like it. And the idea being you're making it too homey, you're making it too inviting. This is still supposed to be our ballpark. I don't know, man. Do you have any issue at all with the idea that it's rubbing their fans the wrong way, but the team itself is just out there trying to make money? It sort of crosses into that weird line between this passionate fandom, but we're a business too, right?
100%. Yeah. As a business decision, it 100% makes sense, right? You are going to sell merchandise, and like you said, maybe you got a lot of the situations are like families or husbands and wives or whatever you want to go with. One of them might be the one that's a diehard fan, but because the other one's there, you're definitely going to get
everybody's
some sales.
Wearing blue. You're looking around going, shit, I want to get one, at least a T-shirt.
Exactly.
Or
The person you're there with is definitely like, okay, well, I want to fit in with the group I'm with.
Right.
And if they are flooding the stadium like that, then sure, like it makes great sense.
Yeah.
But true, like as a fan, that hurts, right?
You'd be pissed.
Yeah.
I'm
just
pissed these people are here.
Yes.
And now you're making this a home game for them.
Yeah. And I've, as a, sorry, Rob, but I'm a Leaf fan too. And I've rolled into some stadiums all over the great North America. I've been to Vegas. I've been to Florida.
Yep.
I've seen Tampa. I've seen the Panthers. I've been to New York. I've seen games kind of almost everywhere.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a Leaf jersey in another arena.
Well, this was one thing that made me laugh, man. And I know you've been through this too. You went to school in Ottawa. You've been to Ottawa enough times. You've come to games with me in Ottawa when the Leafs are in town. I was seeing a lot of Ottawa-based Jays fans telling Mariners fans to get over it. And you're kind of like, that's not really your feeling, though, when the Leafs come to Ottawa.
And I've seen some interesting things. Like, I
guess just to finish that point, to the Sens' credit, they've never sold Leaf hats or jerseys in the building. But fans are sort of having to ride a funny...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They roll in.
Yeah.
But that's the same as wherever the Leafs go, they roll in wherever they are.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what arena it is. There's going to be Leaf fans there.
Well, and it's no coincidence. When you look at the schedule and you look at least one of the trips through Tampa and Florida is going to be probably right after Christmas. Mm-hmm. And one of the trips most years through Tampa and Florida is going to be right around spring break, March break, when all these Ontarians are down.
Snowbirds and vacationers are down there. Yeah,
on March break, you got your kids down. And you can go see the Leafs play the Panthers or the Lightning for a fraction of the cost of doing it in Toronto.
But they also still do surge prices, right? They're making great money.
Oh, and
they know that too. Like,
man, that's the funniest thing about the way the Leaf fans still flood Ottawa is
you're getting a deal, but it's still getting.
It used
jacked.
to be so cheap, right? You would happily drive and get a hotel room and still be ahead of the game. And the Sens, like so many teams, went to dynamic pricing, and so they put the Leafs and the Canadiens in their own bracket at the top. When those two teams are here, our ticket prices go up. Whereas if it's a Thursday against the Predators, it's a much lower price. And they did that for like a year or two. And then they went, no, still not good enough. And they moved the Leafs ahead of the Habs into their own bracket. And you put the Habs with, when Crosby's coming to town, or still like big games, but not quite the same. And so
you're not going to get the same amount of people coming.
Right. And so I get that. It's annoying as a Leaf fan who wants to go. And actually, most of the time now, I just wait till the last possible second when everyone who jacked their prices way up high on the resale gets desperate. And you can usually, like, half the time I'm already on the bus out there when I buy the ticket, right? But I get it. It makes good business sense to make those games worth more. So I'm sure Seattle's doing the same.
Yes, 100%. Why wouldn't you, right?
Right.
And yes, it hurts as a fandom. You want your team's stuff there. You don't want to see them invading your territory. But if it helps the bottom line, like, to me, that's the hard part I have is now all these people just gave this team money for their team, yes.
Sure.
But
and they turned around and signed Teoscar Hernandez away from us with that money we gave them.
Exactly, right? Like, we just paid some of their bottom line.
Right.
It's like the Leafs, right? With the cost allocation sharing.
Yeah.
They're giving money to all these other teams.
Yep.
Like, you may hate us, but we're kind of keeping you guys afloat. So
I remember for a year or two, there was some screw up with the NHL Network or something like that in Ottawa, and Rob telling me to get NHL Network, he also had to pay for Leafs TV.
And you just gave your enemy team.
And like, in this small market with a smaller team, you're being forced to finance Big Blue down the highway.
Thanks for the government town making this.
Exactly. So it's interesting. To me, there's an argument to be said that, like, if you don't want other teams overrunning your building, just buy the tickets, right? Like,
you 100%.
don't when they go on. Like,
wasn't that like a story during the playoffs about them blocking Canadians from buying
the
tickets?
Panthers? Yeah. Didn't really appear to work that well.
That's because a lot of us own homes down there.
Yeah.
We're going to
or like your grandparents do, and you're just like, hey, can you take, like, somebody's got
Here's
a
my
business,
credit card.
right? Like, and get that done. So it didn't work very well. And again, I don't hate the idea of trying to keep other people out of your building, but fans, I don't know. You just sort of, it's on you, right? Like, if you buy up the tickets, they're not there for Canadians to buy it up. And in this case, maybe that's a little unfair to say, because if you live in Vancouver and you're only going to have this one chance to go see, you probably are there on the day the tickets go on sale with Mariners fans trying to buy
that one game,
that one weekend, that one game. Yeah. So,
and I got all the time for it. Like, it's I'm an OHL guy. I like OHL hockey. Not like the fanboys, but I do go to a bunch of different games. I got season tickets at the Pete's, and I got season tickets at the Gens.
It's so weird, man.
Yeah, I know it's weird. It really is weird. But
speaking of supporting your enemy,
and you can't go wrong, right?
No.
But so I've gotten to see some good playoff runs because of that, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, we should explain. You grew up in Oshawa, a Jenny's fan, like myself, and since then have sort of moved, and you're doing a lot of business in the Kawarthas and around the Peterborough
100%.
area. So it makes sense.
And my business partner is a Pete's guy. He loves the Pete's. It's more, one of us gets what we want, and the other one gets what they want.
Yep.
And you can't go wrong at an OHL game. But I have all the time in the day to watch booster clubs roll in.
Yes.
And where I sit at the Gens, guess where they sit? Right below me.
Right underneath.
Right? So I'm sitting there cheering as hard as I can, but nobody's going to hear me.
Hey, booster clubs.
Yeah.
Below me.
Below me.
Not quite.
That's literally what they are. Below me.
Yes.
But it's I got all the time of the day for teams rolling in and helping out the bottom line. As a Jenny's fan, I don't think we're hurting financially. considering our team owner is in on the Sens purchase.
He did end up on that.
He did.
Sort of all through the process, it was sort of, is he in or out, right? Like,
Yeah,
he'd sort of
I
heard
didn't
a few
even
things.
really know what group he was with, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he's not rolling with the big players, but
No.
he's a big player. But still, like, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's,
Well, do you know him? Can we get ourselves a TCA box now at
Well,
Scotiabank? No, it's not. It's Canadian Tire Center.
yeah.
He's not going to be any help at
no.
Scotiabank.
And who knows what the next arena is going to be,
Yeah,
right?
honest to God. Giant Tiger Center or something.
He's
like
actually
that.
from, like, I want to say he's from, like, Guelph or Windsor or something. He's not actually from Oshawa. Like,
Right.
He's not a local. He
No.
just, that's the team he bought. So,
They only come around so often, right? Like, I don't think Michael Landlauer
No.
is an Ottawa guy either, but that's the one that was for sale. And
you take what you can get.
Yep.
And then once you're in, right?
oh,
So,
100%. You're part of the club at that point, right? That's half the
he's
reason.
moving from one team to another.
Yeah, that's
now
half the
already,
reason I think
right?
Landlauer got the Sens
Yeah,
was
100%. They know him.
yes,
Yeah,
the
he's a
league was comfortable
known-
with him. We know his
100%.
background. He doesn't ruffle feathers. He's been part of board meetings before. You know, is it quite what we thought we might? It's way more than when the process started. It's way more than I thought they would get. It turned out to be a little less than some of the numbers towards the end we were hearing, but it was a huge success for the Senators, and they know this
still
guy.
900 million, like above 900?
I thought it was 950, but it's in that neighborhood, yeah. But there was some talk at one point it might cross $1 billion, and that would have been good for the league's bottom line, but for their reputation, but for the team,
Yeah.
people were talking at the beginning like 400 maybe, and then it was 600, and then all of a sudden it's 950. That's fine. We'll be
Yeah,
okay.
We'll take that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's great for the team. Like there's a lot of ups coming for Ottawa, right?
100%.
There's a lot of dynamic things that are going on there.
Well, and even like just the roster itself,
Yep.
like you hate to say it, but it's young and it's good at the moment. Like,
And once that rolls through, there's a potential for a new arena.
Yep.
Like once you've got through that might spur the new arena coming. right?
100%,
Like,
yeah.
It's nothing but positive things are coming for Ottawa.
yeah, that's a bummer.
It is, but it's cyclical.
Of course it
everything
is,
cyclical.
especially with the
So,
cap, right?
yep.
At some point, your team gets good, it hopefully wins, and then pieces start to break off. Like the Blackhawks, of course, the perfect example, right? That 2010 team was absolutely stacked, and then Dustin Byfuglien left, and Andrew Ladd left, and Chris Versteeg left, and you couldn't afford to pay them all for having these career years at the same time that won you the cup.
Yep.
So you take a year or two, they get back in there at 2013, and they win. And then it's sort of, it doesn't fall apart. They're still good, but they're not
Yes.
quite as good. And you need
You're trying to moneyball this team back
right.
together.
You need
and-
these guys to like Pickles and these guys to keep working their way up. And so you're seeing it happen to Toronto, only without the cups, which is somewhat disappointing. But your Zach Hyman's disappear and your Michael Bunting's disappear, and all because they played well, and
Yeah.
you can't afford them anymore.
No.
So that's just the way it plays out. Just before we started, the Leafs got their arbitration award. On what they're going to have to pay Ilya Samsonov there next year. It's $3.55 million. To me, that feels comfortable.
Yep.
The Leafs said we want to pay him 2.4. He came in at 4.9. As often is the case, the arbitrator
Here's
just
the middle.
picks the
Here's
middle.
the middle.
And that's why I love
Forced
baseball arbitration.
Because it's like
You pick a number, I pick a number. The arbitrator's not allowed to pick the middle. They're picking one of our numbers.
Oh, really?
And it stops you from fucking around, right? Because let's just say you and all your like everybody who's comparable to you in the league is making $5 million, and the team comes in and says, we'll give them 4.5, but you're like, fuck you, I'm a $9 million player. Well, guess what? You're getting 4.5, right? Because the team was far more reasonable and it happens the other way too.
yeah, you're
but
gonna be a little more in that edge.
it forces you to be reasonable.
yeah.
So I like that a whole
pulling
lot.
a shotgun clause in a business
Basically,
agreement, right?
man.
Like,
That's exactly-
don't lowball him because he's just gonna buy you out,
Yep,
right? Like
that's it. You're boned. So 3.5 though for Samsonov for the year he had when you didn't really expect him to be your starter. As you hear one of these cigarette boats go racing by out on the lake, there's a lot
There's
more
half
of
a
those.
million right there.
Honestly, that might be Ilya Samsonov and his new purchase here on this afternoon. Man, I grew up, as you know, sort of on this lake as you did, and then stopped being here for whatever it was, like 20 years before the family ended up back on this lake. There are so many more of those boats than there ever used to be that I
there's-
remember as kids.
And these cottages alone are way more money than
Yeah.
they ever were before. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's just astronomical and
But those cigarette boats, man, those loud racing boats that you're used to hearing on like the big water, right? Out on the
Yep.
oceans or even the Great Lakes or whatever. There's so many of them just blasting through here now that, anyway.
I've been on them, and they seem cool to an extent until you're on them.
Yeah.
And then, like, this lake is a decent size
Sure,
lake.
yeah.
But when you blink and you're from one side of the lake to the other side of the lake, and you go, like, did we run over anybody in that time frame?
Yeah.
You're going, maybe it's a bit excessive for here.
Right. Well, like a day putting the lake and just
Yeah.
sort of enjoying being out there is not a thing in one of these boats.
No.
You are point A to point B in no time. so.
Exactly.
But yeah, maybe that's what Sammy decided to do with his money. But like I said, that to me seems fair. A guy you didn't expect to be your starting goalie last year. Matt Murray, of course, gets hurt, as he often does. He takes over. He plays pretty well, man. Like if you told me you were going to get that type of goalie at $3.5 million for a year, you take it. Joseph Woll,
Yep.
I think, will be the other guy. And he sort of showed last year. He's ready. Is he going to be an elite number one? I don't think we know yet, but he's ready to get a chance.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what you need.
yeah, get a little push there, and so we'll see. I sent you a link there before we started the show of this thing from FIBA, which is the International Basketball governing body. They're debuting and testing out and showing off this LED glass floor, and it's basically a basketball court-sized video game panel that
100%.
they've laid down, and there's some cool possibilities with that, like for your ads and stuff that you could change out from one half to the other half, or there's somebody getting ready to take a free throw, you can, I don't know, put up some fire around him or something. I don't know. Like, there's all kinds of possibilities for this, but there are people in the replies rightfully asking, how does the ball react on this, right?
Yeah.
Like, does it bounce the same as it would on hardwood? Probably not. Now there's time to tinker and stuff like that. What is the surface like as guys start to sweat in the third and fourth quarter? Does it get a
I
little
didn't even think
slippery
of that.
being on the
Wow.
glass? Yeah. So there's a lot of things.
Here comes the human slip and slide across.
Basically, man, guys just bailing out all over the place.
Here, it's not making it to the NBA anytime soon. Here goes some massive contracts. It's-
Oh, look, Zion Williamson just blew his knee out on our stupid glass floor. I could see it at like an all-star game in the next year or two, but as far as real games, I don't know. But like in principle, this allows you to do all sorts of things. And we've seen other leagues try it, right? Like this year, hockey went all in on the superimposed
the
ads
Yeah.
that were on the boards and like in theory I don't care, like there's ads on the boards anyway and on the ice anyway, but it wasn't ready for prime time, right?
No.
You had guys like skating through it and like you were watching on TV and the puck would sort of disappear behind the Uber sign or something. So in theory I don't have a problem with trying to make some money this way. But this one is a whole other level. It's like playing on a giant TV screen.
Well, and I like the fact that if you were a local guy, like you go to some of those arenas and there's definitely local content on those boards.
Yeah.
Like things you're never going to see nationally or
No. Yeah, if
And-
you're in-house
Yeah.
versus the national broadcast.
which you think you're going to be on, like as a local guy that it's, say, a tire guy.
Sure.
That pays for that ad and thinks, oh, he's going to be on TV.
Hockey night in Canada
Now
or
you're
whatever.
not,
No,
right?
you
Like,
are so
you're-
not.
Not that it was going to help you.
I remember the first time I ever saw one of these was at Madison Square. I wasn't at Madison. I was watching on TV. The Rangers were playing, maybe the Leafs, doesn't matter. But behind both nets on the glass, they had superimposed the Subway restaurants logo. And I remember going, the most expensive seats in the building are like 5 rows up. How could you possibly do this to them, right? Like put that giant poster. You're like, no,
Find out. No,
stupid.
it's
It's not
superimposed on the
there.
glass,
It's
yeah.
if you're in the building, you don't see it. And to me, again, it's annoying because everything is an ad now, but once you just start watching the game, you just don't really care. But these live ones that they tried this year in hockey, it didn't work.
No.
Like, it wasn't ready for prime time. And of course, Gary's standing up there saying, well, we hear our fans like it. And you're like, what fan has possibly said to you, we like your
He
ad?
seems so in touch with the fans.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Every interview is like, yeah.
Yeah, as he's condescending to you. But this, like I said, I'm concerned about the playing surface on the basketball one and how the ball will react. I'm sure before it goes prime time, the NBA will actually do their research and protect their stars and whatever.
100%.
But the idea seems awesome, man.
frankly, I kind of want to learn how to be a hacker so that I can take control of this thing and do some major damage. But,
Sure.
It looks cool.
The middle of a 76ers Celtics game and you're putting the Raptors logo mid-game, or as we talked about beforehand, like the scene from Land Before Time where the earthquake happens. It looks like the floor is just disappearing from underneath
floor is
you.
lava.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole new game.
And like, how long will it take though that like when this does become real, that like you step to the foul line and they put like the emoji laughing face laughing at you on the floor right in front of you? Like, is that something you want to see, or is that too far? Like, does that interfere with the game, or is it just fun? Like, would you be willing, like, would this for you be limited to ads, or would you let teams within reason have some fun with it?
Oh, no, I would totally let teams have some fun with it. I kind of would like to see what the players' interaction with it is first to know, because that's what you're paying to see, right?
Sure.
But you, like, if you go to a Raptors game, there is so much going on in that arena for you to interact with, right? There's tons of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I can see it rolling out there and being cool to see.
Yeah.
But it's got to be trialed. And I don't know where you trial. Do you trial that in the
G League or something?
G League? Like, it's gotta
Are you
be.
willing to pay the money to put that surface
Maybe
out
that's
in
why the
Mississauga?
international
or
basketball is getting it first.
Must be, yeah. Like, to me, it's got to be within reason. Like, to me, the laughing emoji, which is just an idea, while the guy's at the free throw line, is fine. After he misses, like, it can be grinning at him or whatever before, but it can't be moving.
Yes.
It can't distract him. As your opponent is coming up the court, the floor can't be shifting underneath him. As funny as that would be,
moving the lines on him,
right?
So he has no idea where he is.
Yeah, like it to me, while the game is in play, you have to leave it, static.
Yeah.
But the second something happens, that floor can catch fire or whatever, right? Like, as soon as play is out for a second, I think that's fine. I think you're going to have a hard time drawing a line here, though, on what's okay. And really, teams always look for
advantages.
Yeah. The edge, right? And so
How
if you don't
close do
explicitly
we play
have
to
these,
this?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So they definitely have to come up with some rules on how they're going to roll this out. Otherwise, leaving it up to the teams individually, that's just dangerous. Like,
yeah. No, for sure.
I got all the time in the day for them to try it out and see what it's going to do. But I would rather see how players interact with it first. And like watching that video, the person's dribbling the ball, and it looks like
we'll share the video
ripples,
on our social media feeds.
Ripples rolling out, and it's
almost like he's dropping it into a puddle or something, right? Which is cool, but
it's not quite as interactive. But then there was the person sweeping, and it looks like they're like cleaning off whatever's on the floor and it's disappearing as they're going. I'm like, that's cool.
So they're showing off the tech in that video, and you're going to have to decide where you're willing to draw the line on.
Because there's always going to be somebody that finds something
100%.
to do with it, right?
Yeah.
The greatest thing about having that is finding the ways of adapting it to your team.
Sure.
Right? So,
one of the things that I thought we might get into today, just because it's kind of a slow time in the sports calendar, and actually, I know a lot of our listeners will be interested to hear what's going on around the Red Blacks game against the Stampeders this weekend. But again, we're sitting here Sunday afternoon. That game's not till 7:00, so you'll know before we do how that has played out. So we're not going to be able to get to that today. But I just thought one of the things, coming out of the MLB All-Star break, most hockey executives are long, probably sitting somewhere along this lake, some of them. And basketball is the same thing. It's closed, right? It's a slow time of year in sports. So I thought we could kick around a couple things just on the idea of at times feeling like you don't belong in a certain place in a sports business. And this is, look, you and I have been lucky enough over the years to be invited to some things, to get to go see some things in some seats that, maybe we at the time, especially growing up, hadn't earned, right? Maybe didn't quite belong in, but knew some people who hooked it up. But you were telling me a story the other day about being invited through a business contact of yours to one of the Leafs Lightning playoff games. I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head which game it was, whether it was, one of the first two or game 5 or whatever it was back in Toronto.
it was the first two.
Okay, so somewhere there, game 1 or 2 in that Tampa series. And the experience that you described to me at the time did not sound like one of those things we mentioned earlier, going to the classic movie theater where you just get your popcorn and your beer and you go sit down? This was a scene, man.
This was a scene, and this was quite a privileged scene, I will say, and definitely not earned myself, for sure.
Well, your business earned you the right to know this person and get to go or whatever. This was not something that your business had acquired for the year.
Not a direct invite.
Right.
Not an accomplishment of my business,
sure.
That's for sure. But no, I got a nod from a buddy that called me up kind of last minute, said, hey, I got some tickets to the playoff game, and you never say no to that.
No.
You make a call to a wife and say, sorry, honey, I will not be home.
I'm working
late tonight, and yeah, you roll out.
Yeah.
So no, I got the nod and said, yeah, no, I'm in. You give me the nod, I'm going to go. And so I jumped in the truck and off we went and thought nothing of it. I've sat in some pretty nice seats over the years, whether it's a gift from my wife or whatever. But this was a whole different scene that I was not anticipating. And
I didn't even know this room was in this building.
That's exactly it. That's I even went to a Raptors game recently where I was sitting across from Drake.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, I'm watching him and Adonis, I think is his son's name.
Right.
And I'm watching the nanny take Adonis away. And I'm like, this is a weird lifestyle I'm living here right now and not really anticipating. But back to the original story was, so he gave me the nod and I jumped in and he's, we're going to have dinner in the arena. Okay, no problem. Like,
get a couple hot dogs or something,
and I'm good to go, bud. I'm not built for speed, so I'm down for whatever. So we roll in and...
Is this a good time to interject?
Sure.
The occasional... passing reference to Phil Kessel.
Of who
Speaking of built for speed.
Yes, me and my other brother Phil.
Yeah, and we, you used to refer to yourself as the fat Phil Kessel. Yeah, exactly. And now Phil's kind of the fat Phil Kessel.
I will welcome Phil to fatherhood.
Right,
he is clearly rocking the dad bod.
Yeah, you've kind of gotten your shit under control, and he's kind of going the other way.
I will say, though, that I'm not locking down the Stanley Cups like he is.
No, he's got 3 of them now, and the Iron Man streak. Yes. Suddenly, that is the pillar of health and fitness in the NHL, is Phil Kessel. But he came back this week with his day with the Cup.
Yeah.
Brought it back to Toronto again, which he's done before. And he, look, to his credit, whatever you want to call it, like when he was in Toronto, he frequently did the Matt Sundin thing, which was, I'm going to go to Sick Kids, but this is not going to be a media thing.
He doesn't publicize.
He doesn't talk about it. He was never good on the microphone.
No.
And that's half the reason the media treated him so shitty.
He does a ton of stuff for cancer research.
And still in Toronto.
Yeah.
He hasn't been here since 2015. And so everywhere he's gone.
It's not like he's a local boy. He's from Wisconsin.
He's sort of made this his second home, despite being gone for a long time. So he came back in 2015, did the whole hot dog thing, which was hilarious, eating hot dogs out of the Stanley Cup after the way the media had sort of invented that story around him. He did have, again, an unpublicized event with the Cup at Sick Kids in Toronto. So this is a guy who, likes to come back to Toronto, likes to put in his time here. And if he was interested in a league min deal in Toronto this summer, we could talk about that. But he came back again this week, again, sort of unpublicized, had rented out a local rooftop patio for some friends and family to have his party. It's kind of cool. He keeps coming back. And I always loved Phil, right?
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. He never deserved the teams he played on here. That were so bad.
And he's still rocking out with the goal records and things like that while he's here, like leading the team and
the points and stuff he was putting up.
Awesome.
It was great to have him here. But anyway, that was just maybe the time to interject the passing. If you were to pass Brandon on the street at something, you might stop. What?
Even our hairline is starting to go the same. It's crazy. Like, it's shocking on...
Yes.
And I didn't really pay much attention. I never really paid much attention to players and how they actually look.
Yeah.
Like, you put on a helmet and a jersey and you got a name on the back.
It's one of the biggest problems with hockey is that
you're
they're not
recognizable.
That's right.
Right? And you think that you're recognizable in Toronto.
Yeah.
And most of them roll out of here and they go to Florida or go to wherever, right?
Sure.
And play, and they're even less recognizable.
Yes.
But again, I didn't really pay much attention. And somebody, I think, did a Photoshop image of me and Phil side by side. And I'm like, wow, okay, I got time for this.
Yeah, this is a thing.
Yeah.
And see, I never... it was a self-deprecating thing you threw down, fat Phil Kessel. I never thought, but I did kind of go maybe Funhouse Mirror Phil Kessel, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
it's not dead. Like if you were standing right beside each other, you go, no, that's Brandon and that's Phil.
Yeah.
But like I said, at a passing glance, if you on the sidewalk, you'd stop twice.
Yep.
Go, hey, whoa.
Yeah. If I just jog a little bit more, me and Phil might be. Maybe I can sign some endorsement deals for the guy.
So Phil is the type of guy who runs in the price bracket that got, the box you were at for this playoff game this year. That's the sort of bracket, the type of world we're talking about at this point.
Yeah. So we pull in, we do the usual thing of find the most expensive but closest parking spot you could possibly park your truck that you could fit in Toronto.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, we're going into this restaurant. It's down below in the arena. I'm like, okay, all right. I've been in a few restaurants for work.
Yeah.
And so we go in and we keep going down. Like and I've been below in the platinum seats in the little areas, the conjugal, like meeting rooms back there.
Yep.
But this is we go down and there's like a bunch of different bouncers, checkpoints, and like, where are you going? Do you have a reservation?
Good to see you, Phil.
Yep. And
didn't know you were back in town.
No, exactly. Yeah. What are you doing here?
Isn't Vegas also playing tonight?
Don't you know the hot dogs are upstairs? But yeah, no, we get down to the spot and we're going in and we walk in and it's mahogany walls and the tables are spaced out like very wide. Like there's lots of room to move here, and it's shocking for where ACC or what I call Scotiabank. But yeah, we get in, we sit down, and sitting with the sales rep for the company that we're with, and he's like, "Oh, they've got shrimp and lobster up there as appetizers." I'm like, "What?" Okay.
Beside the
again,
popcorn.
Not built for speed, so I'm hooked in, right?
Yeah.
That's the appetizer, right?
Yeah.
And apparently this restaurant is, I don't know if you've partaked in steakhouses in Toronto, but Harbor 60, which is...
Oh, yeah, okay.
So they run this restaurant. Like I've
seen famous people go in there.
Yeah, and they take their staff on game nights and they ship them over to the ACC.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there, and the guy, like the hostess or waiter or whatever you want to refer to yourself as...
Yeah.
He knows the guy that we're with, and he knows his order. Like knows everything about. Well, you tried this wine last week and this wine the week before, and,
right?
You're gonna have this for dinner. Try this wine or try that. And I'm going, okay, like this is a whole different game, and I haven't even seen the seats yet. Like we're just in this little low area,
having
appetizers of lobster and shrimp. And
so, are you at this point? Is it on the level of those sort of platinum boxes beside, or are you underneath that or above that?
We're kind of behind that.
Okay.
In this one, I would say one
dining
section,
room,
kind of mid arena.
Okay.
Like we're right beside the penalty box.
Okay.
To be honest, like that's where we come out for our seats.
Right.
So yeah, no, we're just sitting down there, and they clearly have this. They've been there before. Like my buddy, who is business wise on par with me.
Yeah.
He's been there many times. I'm like, okay, I'm in the wrong side of this business, right?
The Pete's are not providing me this.
Or the Jets.
No,
right?
no.
So no, so we're sitting there, and they're like, well, we order appetizers now, and then we go watch the first period, and we order everything right now. So you order your dinner, and then you order your dessert. So each period you come in, and it's all there. And by so your first. You roll in, you eat that, and then your second is your dessert and espresso, coffee. Like we're talking, yeah, it's a different lifestyle. I will say I enjoyed it.
Of course.
Yeah. I will say I may get invited again.
Sure.
I was polite. I watched
I
was proper. I did everything to get invited again.
I understood which fork to use first.
Exactly. Work your way out and in, right? Yeah. Thank you, Grandma, for teaching me these things, because that's,
No, it's funny when you think of like these areas into the arena, right?
Yeah.
Like I went once, not during a game night. A friend of ours, who we both know, but for the longest time, he had a box and season tickets for the Raptors and all this stuff. And there was an event where you could go, and it was basically a Q&A with Brian Burke when he was running the team. So I went with our uncle because they couldn't go, and like they usher you in on like street level through this like dining room, And then you're out and you're looking at the glass of the arena. It's like right there.
Yeah.
And then it's behind one of the nets. You go into this dining room and there are like engraved plaques on the table with like people's names that are like, oh yeah, okay, so you've paid $400,000
for this spot
table
to sit,
for this season only. Probably I'm sure at the end of the year rip the plaques off but they open these doors and there's only like 6 rows of seats and then the net, and I'm like, I've been to 1,000 games here. How did I not notice
this was here?
This dining room right behind the one net? And it was, I think they called it the Chairman's Lounge or something like that. It's like where Larry Tannenbaum entertains, and then, you know, they open it up and you just sit there and watch the games as well.
Is he entertaining these people with the gold standard on the table? Is that?
I guess. I don't know what that was supposed to be all about, but like my uncle and I, or our uncle and I, are standing there like, this doesn't feel right. Like, and there's not even a game going on. And then Berkey's coming around, he's shaking hands, he's talking to everybody. And someone asked him, this is the era that we're in, he, you know, why is the team, like at the time, they were bad, but they should have been a little bit better than what they'd been. He said, you know, why are they only 3-10 in their last 13 or whatever? And he goes, well, it's our second line. And at the time, our second line was Kuhlman, Grabowski, and MacArthur. He goes, MacArthur and Grabowski have been dog shit, and Kuhlman's been worse than both of them. You're like, okay, that's not what he was going to say on hockey night or on the radio the next day tomorrow. You're getting some real shit here,
yeah,
right?
You're getting the honest opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
And who's on the trade deadline.
Yeah, basically the next day, those guys are out of town or whatever. So it's interesting, these places that kind of get tucked away
100%
in the building.
And I'm not sure what this one was called. I want to say it was the Air Canada Lounge, but
right.
I'm not 100% sure. I've been in the Scotia Bank restaurant or something, which is up higher.
Yeah.
And still just as extravagant and nice, way more packed.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we're sitting down there, we're sitting with like, there's like 2 people I recognize from the, what is it, Shark's Den on like
like Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den,
yeah.
like something like that. Whatever Canada's version is.
That's Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
Shark's Tank,
Shark's
I think,
Tank.
is the American one.
Yeah. Okay. So we're sitting there. I'm recognizing like people like off of TV and going, I shouldn't be here. Like this is not. I don't belong. I'm definitely not playing these kind of games with these people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the only reason that me and my buddy are invited is because whoever the first choice,
someone else canceled.
Yeah, somebody else canceled, right? So, and I'll give my buddy credit. He said like he gets the nod a lot to go to these events, and always the last choice. And he's like, but I never say no.
No,
I'm gonna go every time.
Yeah, you make sure if you get the tag. Yeah, I'm in. I'll be there. Yeah, you make sure.
I don't care if you call me like an hour before the game.
I can be there.
I will be there, right? Like, just email me the tickets.
My bike up to this $3,000 seat.
Yeah, yeah. And even in the lifestyle that we live, like it's construction.
Yeah.
And I remember our family business was in construction, and we were taken over by a bigger family business.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that I work with when we got taken over, like his job was like business management / entertainment of the clients.
Yeah.
Like anybody
Staffing
working
this
with them.
Shit.
Yeah. And working with like the people that supply him materials or clients or whatever. He said out of like at the ACC at the time, say a season, even for the Leafs or whatever events are going on.
Yeah.
He spent at the ACC something like 285 days a year at events there. And like just entertaining people. And he's like, yeah, this is what
That's the gig is just keeping people happy, entertained.
Yeah. And God knows for a long time we were not seeing any decent teams.
No.
So
I want to get into that for a second, these people who entertain, because I have a feeling you've probably met the same guy I'm going to talk about, but we had to grab another beer here. What do you go with this time?
I went with the Game Face Lager.
Game Face.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the brewery on this, but
there's a couple sitting in the fridge that aren't particularly well marked at this point.
Yeah, this has got a reference to it, like a Brew Aid is a charity innovative for Tomorrow. Oh, Tomorrow Brew Co.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I've never heard of it. It's out of Toronto.
Yep, they've done a couple of things before. I think they used to be known as Old Tomorrow.
Okay.
And they sent us some beer to promote at one point. It was called like Hockey Helps the Homeless or something like that, and
Well, this one's interesting. It's like it's got references to the fact that they're LGFB is a Canadian charity helping women face cancer with confidence, so they can feel like themselves again. So that's kind of interesting.
That's cool, yeah. And these guys are, like I said, they're good like that, right? This one was the Hockey Helps the Homeless one that I tried was an organization that was reliant on fundraising events. And when the pandemic hit in, there was none of that, right? So all their fundraisers went away. And so Old Tomorrow stepped in to do, $1 from every beer or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they sent us some asking, we'll send you, a 12-pack if you'll please talk about what we're doing. That was an easy decision for sure. So those guys do a lot of good stuff, and so power to them. And I went with one I'm pretty unfamiliar with. It's been sitting in the fridge for a bit, but again, seemed like a good one for a hot Sunday afternoon. This is the Glory Days Brewing Company.
Yep.
But great days behind, better days ahead from the Glory Days Brewing Company. Premium lager, just a straight up summer beer, right?
And sounds like a throwback to like COVID times.
Glory
right?
days.
We're past that.
Too, yeah. It's funny you mentioned. I guess I mentioned. It's funny. Glory Days, the old Bruce Springsteen song. One of my favorite bands are the Gaslight Anthem. Put out a new song this week in partnership with Bruce Springsteen. Sings the second verse.
Nice.
Yeah, they've often gotten compared, like they're a New Jersey band, just like he is, of course. And their stuff's a little heavier, but most modern stuff is.
Yep.
And so they've often kind of been called the new generation, the next generation of Bruce Springsteen. And Bruce has sang with them at major festivals a couple times before, or Brian Fallon, the lead singer, has sang with Bruce a couple times before. So that's not the first time that they've partnered up or kind of leaned into that comparison.
Yep.
But this is the first time they've actually officially recorded a song together.
If you can get a little bit of that rub from Bruce, why wouldn't you,
100%,
right?
yeah.
Take it.
And the other way around, too. Bruce is a legend, but they're keeping him young here a little bit.
100%. It works both ways,
For sure. So that's kind of cool. Unfortunately, and I have no idea what to make of this. One of my other favorite bands there, Anti-Flag, packed up shop, completely closed all their social accounts, closed their website. And I guess at the beginning of last week, there was a podcast where a woman went on and described an incident where she had been raped. Did not name a band, did not name a singer, just said a well-known lead singer from a well-known, political punk band. And she described the event they'd been at, sort of the time frame, and Twitter went and figured it out basically on their own. And, it sounds like the person being accused is Justin Sane, who's the lead singer of Anti-Flag, allegedly. We don't know anything at this point. But when you put her story out and then the fact that all of their social media just disappeared on a dime, unannounced, no explanation, no nothing, doesn't look good, man. Which would be a bummer, right? Like Anti-Flag, of course it's a bummer for her, obviously. Yeah. But like, this is a band that is so often sang about inclusion and community, and
that's the whole genre really is kind of.
And to find out that this guy maybe was using that cover as brutal.
Yep.
Anyway, let's not get into all of that until we have a few more facts. But you referenced there talking to someone who basically their entire job was, or not their entire job, but like 250 nights a year, they were entertaining people at the ACC. And I wonder if you ever met, and I won't use his name here, or I'll bleep it out in post, from Scotiabank.
No, I never did.
Okay.
No.
So he was a guy that, our fathers worked with through their bank, and occasionally, to keep your big spenders
still
happy.
They still work with them.
There you go. Well, he stopped inviting. They're not making enough money anymore, to be worth the invite anymore.
They're probably still making the money. They're just not getting the same
now that they're into the retirement of it. Yeah. So, but that was his entire job for that bank, was entertaining people and keeping clients happy. And so he invited our uncle one night, and so he took me and our cousin Adam, and we went down, and we were in one of those suites that you were referring to at the platinum level, as opposed to the boxes up on the, third level or, whatever, the sky boxes up there. And so all we were told beforehand was that you would go and there would be a Leafs legend in your box. And so that
was their sponsored name of their box, right? I believe Scotia's Banks, and I don't know if it still is, but they were
the alumni box, something like that. Yeah. So we went, it was the three of us, like I said, my uncle and my cousin and I, and this guy from the bank. And you kind of come in off street level and you walk through this dining room, and now you're in these hallways, and you have to stop for a second because the players are coming across the hall to go out for warm up. And so we're into this box, and they're, offering you free beers and free food and whatever else. And we're looking around because we were told when we arrived the player that was going to be there was Darcy Tucker. And that's right in my time frame.
Is that because he's still on contract? Is that
they're still
paying him?
I think he just likes to show up there often enough because it's dinner, right? Someone will hand me some food.
I'm pretty sure we have the same story because I've been in the same box with the same nod.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not very often the traffic gets this rowdy out in front of here.
The one vehicle every...
Yeah. Anyway, so we go in there, and there's no sign at Darcy Tucker. And my cousin Adam is 10 years younger than me. So I'm in like the prime of my hockey fandom at like 20 years old when the Darcy Tucker Leafs are doing their thing in the playoffs against the Sens. He's 10, so he's in his formative hockey years, and he would sort of drift away from hockey. But getting that invite was for him back to his hockey childhood too. And so we're kicking around in there, and we're both just looking around. Where's Tux, right? Where's Darcy Tucker? We're looking at he's not there. And they finally, they don't kick you out. You can stay in the box if you want, but they said they're getting ready for opening face-off. So I'm right behind my uncle, my cousin's right behind me, and we're waiting, and we're trying to get out the door because these are small hallways down there. Mm-hmm. There's a big crowd trying to push through.
And the box is actually pretty tight.
It is. It's not big at all, no. And so we're standing in the doorway, and you're trying to wait for a chance to kind of get in there and get into that rush of people going through. And my uncle at some point just decides, I've had enough. And he throws a forearm.
And he's a big dude.
He is. He's 6'1", whatever. Yeah. He's a big guy. And he's just like, I'm going now. And he doesn't pay any attention that the forearm he's just thrown is to Darcy Tucker, who's trying to get into our box.
Well, quite frankly, our uncle is probably bigger than Darcy
He was bigger than Darcy Tucker, but I'm not sure anybody was looking to tussle with Darcy Tucker.
Not the place you want to do it, that's for sure.
And so
Darcy's not getting tossed from that.
No, if somebody's getting thrown out, it won't be Tucker. And so he kind of pushes his way by and goes, and my cousin and I are looking at each other like, did that just happen? did he just throw a forearm shiver at Darcy Tucker? And Tucker, we kind of said, hey, how's it going, right? Like, he's now right in front of us. And he's like, yeah, fine.
Who is
but he's
this
like,
guy?
Yeah, he's looking over his shoulder like, am I going to fight that guy who just shoved me with his forearm? And so we stayed for like a half second to talk to Tucker just for a minute. And then, we knew we'd have a chance in the first intermission. So we followed my uncle up to the seats. And so we're sitting there, and about 5 minutes into the first period, Tux comes up, and he's sitting, there's maybe 3 seats, then me, my cousin, and my uncle. And that end seat is Tucker's. He's going to watch the game with this group of people.
So he's like now sitting in the same row with the guy that just armbarred him.
Basically, but down a few, right? And so my uncle, who still has no idea who he's just assaulted.
He's not really a hockey fan, so he watches the game, but he doesn't recognize them.
But this is the funniest part. As Tucker's coming up the steps to sit in our row, my uncle's elbowing my cousin Adam going, that's Darcy Tucker. It's Tucker.
Nice.
So you're like, he did recognize him, but not in the moment that you threw the elbow.
You don't get the fangirl now that you just after you armbarred the guy.
He's like, we should go say hi to him. Like, he's going to
he knows
throw down right now. Yeah. So, we got back down into the box during the first intermission, and, everybody's asking questions. He's giving these, nice long answers or whatever. My uncle just says, hi, my name's such and such. And whatever, and he's just like, yeah. And I'm like,
that's it. Yeah.
He's giving my uncle the cold shoulder here hard.
You guys are like edging over away from him?
Yeah, basically. I don't know that guy.
I don't know that guy. He brought us here, but we don't know him.
When we were trying to get out behind him, when it actually happened and Tux was looking over his shoulder like, who the fuck was I? We did the same thing. Like, who is this asshole? Right? But, we took some pictures, we signed some shit or whatever. And,
So
Tucker
he did that. He took pictures and did all the
It was funny.
Wow.
I walked up to him at one point in the second intermission and I said, hey, big fan, loved that series against the Islanders, which was all out war in 2002, basically. He goes, I didn't love that series against the Islanders. But I can't remember exactly how I worded it, but whether I was fanboying and sputtering or what, but I didn't finish my sentence quick enough. I just said, I was wondering if, he goes, you want me to sign your jersey? And in my head, I'm like, fuck no, it's a $300 jersey. Don't sign it. I wanted to take a picture with him. I said, well, actually, I was hoping to get a picture. He's go, oh, yeah, that's totally fine. So my cousin jumps in on the other side, and my uncle goes to step in, and Tux kind of turns like away from him. Like the whole thing was so awkward. Yeah. Right? And so the only other thing from that night,
the only one that earned the spot to be there is the guy
that's now getting nudged out. Yeah, for sure. So be careful you're throwing forearms at here, people. But the only other thing I'd say at that point, like I said, my cousin's about 10 years younger than me, and so when you're sitting down in the box, you can have whatever food or drink or whatever you want, and then at the maybe 2 minutes into each period, they come up and they pass a pad. Like our whole row of 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever was people who were from that box. So our hostess comes up and passes a pad of paper down. Do you want to order anything to your seat? Which is, again, all free. Not free, but the bank's paying for it. What the hell do I care?
Sorry, people, for all those bank charges you get.
Right.
This is where it's going.
That's exactly it. So it comes to me, and I'm like, I'm good. And my cousin Adam's like, we should have one more beer. Because it's the beginning of the third period. And
he's rocking like 19. This is like
exactly. He's 10 years younger than me. He's also 100 pounds lighter than me. He didn't need another beer either, but he was having a good time on someone else's dime. And so I said, I'm good. Like I have one, right, that I grabbed with me during second intermission. I'm maybe a third of the way through it, and we're 3 minutes into the period. I'm like, I'm all right. And he says, no, like, let's have another one. And I said, no, honestly, I'm good. He goes, all right. So he takes the pad and just passes it to his dad there in the next seat. And as it comes back down, I'm now watching the game. I don't pay attention. So it's got to get passed back through us all. He stops, orders himself a beer, orders me a beer, and passes it out to this. And so, yeah, there you go. 3-5 minutes later, this large, whatever, Molson Canadian lands in my lap. And
I guess that we're doing this.
And funny thing is, he was living in Toronto at the time, so he had a 4-minute drive home.
He was like, okay.
So meanwhile, he's
hitting up the next bar at his age.
Probably, Either way, he was getting to a bathroom a lot quicker than I was. I didn't have a.
No, he didn't have on in the car.
70-minute drive home. Or whatever, so that was a blast. But you and I like talking about the Jens and the Petes, and it's not quite the same thing, or whatever. But the family for a while had a box.
Can I just tell my
Tucker
story first?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So same thing. I get to roll into this event with my father, and who's business partners with the uncle that we just talked about. And same suite and that. And we're sitting there, and we're sitting there with a bunch of alumni in the box, and I have no idea who these guys are. They honestly, they were great. They flat out said, like, we're more from your dad's era than from yours. Yeah. And they're signing my jersey.
Peter
I had like
King
a 90s,
like Paul Mateer.
Yeah, and I had like a 90s jersey, like the white leaf with the lettering in it.
Yeah.
That does not hold autographs at all.
No.
So like I literally, before I even got home, that autograph was not recognizable. Like it's gone, right?
It's just a ruined jersey now with an ink stain.
Exactly. That was probably $150 back in the 90s. Yeah. Now it's worthless. Like And no problem. I got all the time to let you sign a jersey that I'm not going to... I don't know who you are, and I don't know now who that autograph is. I still have the jersey.
Yeah.
But we're sitting there, and we're sitting there with them, and they're like, oh, yeah, Tucker's going to be up here. And they have nothing good to say about him.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And they're like, he's just going to roll in. He's going to just grab his food. And he is still being paid by the Leafs at this point.
Yeah.
He's still on contract.
He had a long-term buyout that was still rolling out for a long time.
And he had to go down and drop the puck at this event.
Okay.
So he's down there, and he comes back up. And they're like, watch. He'll just come in. He'll load up his plate. He'll grab his food, and he's gone. I'm like, no, like, this is the alumni box. He's got to do his thing, right? This is what they're paying him to do. No, he did exactly that. I've never seen somebody load up a plate.
Probably our
with
uncle
his-
pissed him off.
Yeah.
One forearm shivers. I'm
One
done
uncle?
with.
Yeah.
I'm
And-
done with these
yeah,
assholes.
yeah. They all look the same. So, but he rolled in, and I've never seen somebody take down a whole platter of chicken fingers like Tucker. He rolled in. I don't think there was any chicken. They had to make more because he rolled in, loaded his plate, and walked out. Didn't autograph a single thing.
No.
He was gone.
Wow.
And I'm like, good for you, bud. Like, I get it. And then I think that was like, this was the last year of his deal.
Buyout,
that was
yeah.
it. And he was gone, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. No,
I think he still shows up from time to time for a meal, right? Like,
does.
He's still recognizable.
Yeah.
And so they'll, come on in.
When I've been to another event, I went to an association event.
Yeah.
And they hosted it in Toronto. And part of you got to do little events when you're at these conferences, right?
Yeah.
And one of them was you got to play hockey with alumni.
Okay.
So, and we had dinner after the event.
Keep your head up.
Yeah. Well, but the best part is, so Cujo is
Yeah.
on the ice,
Nice.
but
My favorite.
not a goalie.
They never do.
No, but
the alumni goalies don't want to. They don't want to
So
give you.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So I was talking to him after,
Yeah.
and I'm like, so why don't you play net? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, he could have played NHL either way. Like, watching him out there, he was skating circles around these guys. Like, and again, we're talking anywhere from 30 to 60-year-old business people,
Right.
built like me. Like, they are not the pinnacle of hockey.
Sure.
They are the pinnacle of beer league.
Right.
If that.
Yeah.
So he's just skating circles around everybody. And so I'm talking to him after. I'm like, so why don't you play net? Do you really want to hear from the guy that, great CEO,
Yeah.
but beer leg hockey scores on you?
Right.
You don't want to be that
No.
NHL elite goalie that is like,
The
he,
goalies won't do it
no.
in these games.
And I 100% understood
No.
that. I'm like, I get it. I'm the pinnacle of the elite.
Yeah.
And here comes
You don't
beer league
get to
Bob
score
coming
on
down
me.
and you score on me.
No.
Like, no, thank you, right?
I remember Bob McCown on the radio used to talk all the time about he would show up just as a media member. There was like a local road hockey game on some Sunday morning on some tennis court in his community. He said Mike Palmatier used to show up all the time, refused to ever be the goalie, even in road hockey. Like, just nope, not doing it. Like, you guys don't get to score on me
No.
ever.
Yeah.
Who knows? Some crazy bounce, some whatever. It's not happening.
And I will say, Cujo was an amazing, he was defense.
Yeah.
And he was still scoring goals like crazy.
I love that guy. Maybe
yeah.
my favorite Leaf ever.
Oh, you know
maybe.
what?
Yeah.
That he was a highlight
Yeah.
watching that. It was great. And I didn't realize the whole deal with alumni and Stanley Cup rings. There was a guy there at the dinner, and I feel bad. I don't remember the guy's name. I have a picture with all 5 of his Stanley Cup rings, but I don't remember his name.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we can start to search it out now. People who won at least 5
Yeah,
cups.
yeah. But the best part is, so he rolls in, and each of our tables had an alumni there. So if you played on the team,
Yeah.
you can apply to be an alumni
Sure.
for that team.
Yeah.
And so he has played for
Aki Berg, come on down.
Yeah, well, and this guy clearly he was a seasoned veteran. And I think
Yeah.
they traded him, and that's why he got so many cups.
Yeah, exactly. Aki Berg doesn't have 5
No,
cups.
no. And so this guy, the best part, I'm talking to him like, so that's great. You have 5 rings, but you know how he's carrying them around? He has tied skate laces through all 5 rings. He's like, well, I can't wear them all. Like, who can wear 5?
No.
You know how much weight that is on your hand?
Arthritis
But-
all over
But the best part is you're carrying around a skate lace. Like
Just whatever. I found it in my bag.
And he just pulls it out of his pocket like it's nothing. Like, here you go. I'm like, there's probably 3 diamonds in your pocket
Yeah.
that just rolled off those rings. But that's how he was like, and he let you. You put them all on your hand,
Yeah.
and you take a picture with them, move it to the next person.
No way.
Yeah. And it was like, he was super cool guy.
Yeah.
But like, I just can't imagine like that. This is the highlight of your career.
Loosey-goosey
Yeah,
with
with your rings,
your
right?
accomplishments.
Yeah. I'm hoping those are replicas, not the real, genuine diamond ones, right? Like, just
Man.
unbelievable. Like,
He's probably got 4 more at home or something.
yeah, that's true. He just traded in
Henri
right
Richard
at the
or
end. Yeah.
something.
Just traded in at the end, get the cup.
Yeah.
This
No,
is a throwback to Phil, right? Like,
Yeah.
you roll in, get your cup, roll out.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny with Phil. Like,
Oh man, I
3
really hope Toronto gets him
honestly,
back,
well,
gets
we
his
could use
cup.
some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Here's your 4th cup ring. He's at 1 more cup ring away from a skate lace.
Well, and I remember though somebody posted a picture of his house in Pittsburgh when he was living there, and his basement it was just like him and like one of those
A chair.
Yeah. And
that
then
was
and his Xbox.
Yeah.
Whenever you're like,
This is what he does
He's
for
just
fun.
living in this hobo apartment
Yeah.
is what it looks like.
But he was living with somebody in Toronto too. Just like that's what they did. They played video games the whole time. Like
I think it was Bozak maybe at the time.
I think it was. I think you're right. It was just him and Bozak.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Just
picturing
living
like,
the college life.
well, like Joey and Chandler, just two chairs in front of the TV,
Basically,
like,
yeah.
Roll out of practice and like.
This is the rest of our day.
Yeah.
When we're not grabbing hot
do you
dogs.
Play NHL '96 on.
On the Genesis. Yeah. It's funny, though, like, as you sort of roll through some of these, I went to one at a Sens game, and it was the same thing I just said about, buying Leafs tickets in Ottawa at the last possible second. I had a friend in town from Australia who'd never been to an NHL game. And so this was family day, long weekend, like a holiday Monday, and so the Sens are playing at like 3 o'clock. And on the Sunday, we'd been up till like 4:30 in the morning, getting drunk, singing Dolly Parton songs.
That's when you want the 7 o'clock game.
Yeah, honestly, a little time here. So we got up, we went out for breakfast, and then we went back, and I said, like, you still feeling this? And she's like, yeah, how often am I over here? Like, we'll do it. She's like, but you do it. I'm going to go have a nap. You can find the ticket.
You get the ticket.
Right.
I'm going to sleep this off.
Right. And so I jumped on, and I'm looking around, and like, there's some okay ones, and midway up the first level that would be great. Like if you're going for your first time, you don't really want to sit way up there, but I also don't want to pay, out the ass for Sens Jets on a holiday Monday afternoon.
I'm closer to Toronto, so I pay at the ass no matter what.
I guess, yeah. And so at the last possible second, I saw these ones that said row AA on level 1, and I don't know where that is. But I know A's are good, and I know level 1 is good, and I just clicked buy, right?
For sure.
And so we headed out there, and it was so close to the time that we were supposed to actually Uber out that, like, I'm still trying to figure it out on my phone in the Uber. Like, I know I have the tickets, I've bought them, but, like, now what do I do? Are these scannable? Are they whatever? We ended up having to go into the will call and say, like, what do I do with this confirmation number? And they printed them out for us. So we go looking for the seats. And I went over to what I thought was section A and went down, but there was no, whatever section it was, there was no row AA. It was just row A up against the glass. I'm like, this isn't us. It says specifically AA. So we go back up, and I'm walking around, and I cannot find it. And so I said to the usher, like, where are we supposed to be? And so he walks us over right behind the Ottawa net, and down and down and down and down. And we turn left to this area that I know now is called Club Bell. For Sens fans who are listening to this and maybe are familiar with Club Bell, it's leather seats. Someone comes right away and says, "Can I take your jacket?" Like,
in-seat service.
Yeah,
on
like,
another
is this?
level. Like,
no, you can't take my jacket. I'm clearly not supposed to be here. I
don't
only
even
bought.
have the jacket.
I bought these
You're
tickets
looking for a
30
suit
minutes
jacket.
ago.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they said, no, like, we were second row in these big leather seats. And she said, by the way, there's private bathrooms in behind and a restaurant bar that is only for people in this section. And I'm like, what section? There's 8 of us, I think. So we go back in there, before the puck drops, and all the food is free, including these awesome Nanaimo bars. Which
can't
is,
go wrong with
yeah, that's a personal
hockey.
favorite.
Yeah.
The beer wasn't free. You had to go up to this bar, which, whatever. Fair enough. It was right there. You didn't have to stand in line with everyone else. And so we went out and we watched the first period, and I'm still trying to figure this all out. What has happened? We bought tickets at the last second. We can't possibly
so that
be
you
in the
can
right seats.
Repeat this again, like.
So I go in during first intermission, enjoyed the marble private bathrooms that, again, didn't feel like I should be having access to.
Is this the one where they like hand you the towel as you walk? out?
Basically, yeah.
Here, try some cologne. That also happens in sketchy Quebec clubs.
Right. And so we got in line at the bar, and we were last in line, so there was nobody behind us. And so I said to the bartender after he handed us our beers, where are we? What is this magical place?
And how do I get here more?
Yeah,
often?
exactly. How do I know to buy here again? Because honestly, I'm sure they were $400 a piece tickets that we got for $75 a piece at the last second. And he said, "Can I see like your ticket or whatever?" So I showed him my phone.
More to check that you should be.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you shouldn't be here. Get the hell out, stupid. He he goes, I can't explain why these were available online, but it's a private club. People buy these as club seats. They have access to all of this. Obviously, somebody couldn't make it today, threw them up online, just trying to get something for them at the last minute. You happened to click at the right time. And I said, awesome. He goes, by the way, he goes, I'm sure you've been here before, not here, but in the building before. You know, they last call is right after second intermission, right? He goes, there is no last call here. You can come into this little area.
When did I arrive at heaven?
Right.
Thank you.
And he's like, and we stay open after the game. They bring down a player and do an interview. Now, I'm not a Sens guy, so I don't give a shit about that. But
the person from Australia who's never...
Sure. And just in so she actually said to me before I asked that question during first intermission, while we're sitting down there, she's like, are you trying to big time me? Like, you just trying to show off and impress me? I'm like... I'm more impressed than you are. I'm the one who loves hockey. You would have been impressed sitting way the hell up there. So it was a blast, man. But so we did stay. I can't even remember who they interviewed after the game. It doesn't matter. But we had a few too many beers after the game down in Club Bell. And then you stumble out the door and you're like, oh shit, we're still in the middle of nowhere. This arena, the buses are gone, the cabs are gone. It's 90 minutes after the game. It's desolate. And you're like, do I actually have to stand here and phone a taxi to the empty Canadian Tire Center parking lot? We got lucky. Some security person walked by and asked, what the hell are you still doing here? Like, we're trying to leave. He's like, oh, I can wave you down a cab or whatever. But that one was weird to me just because I had it was so accidental. I had no idea what we were about to do and how cool that area was. To see a game in. Some of our friends of the show there, Creech and Lloydie and whatever, that's where on game days they host the midday, or hosted before the cutbacks, the midday show. They would host from there and they could then look out on the ice, check out the practice lines, all that shit, right? And but we stumbled in there accidentally and had a hell of a time, man. So completely accidental, right? But... we referenced a little while ago the box at the General Motors Center that the family business had, and then the family had and whatever. I remember going that one night they were retiring Bobby Orr's number. Great night. Which was odd because most people think number 4 Bobby Orr in Oshawa. It's number 2 Bobby Orr. So we were sort of the suite that we were in was next to where Bobby was hanging out with the VIPs, and so we weren't allowed in there, but we were able to reach over the railing and ask Cassie Campbell, who was in there. Well, actually, Cassie Campbell recognized that we were trying to see Bobby Orr. Yeah, there was we were down in the box, not up in the hallway behind the box, but we were clearly leaning over the railing trying to see, is there a way to go in here or whatever. How do we get to Bobby? Yeah, and so she was nice enough to take our tickets or our programs or whatever over and get signed, and then she came back and said hello, was really nice. Well, and you're like, can you sign it too? Yeah, that was the best part. Yeah, she assumed she just walked up. We were on the edge of our seats. Yes, at the edge of the box. Yeah, trying to get anybody to recognize. And I don't know how old we were. We were relatively young. Well, not as young as you'd want us to be. This was would have been 16. No. I was in or done college. Really? Yes. This was a little later on than you want to remember it. Okay. Still fanboying hard for Bobby Orr, as you would, right? But just as fanboying for Cassie Campbell. 100%. It's that she took our shit over and Bobby signed it. And when she came back, she goes to hand it, and we were both like, can you sign it too? Maybe right? Not on that ticket. Sure. Something. We had both had multiple pieces of gear that we bought for that night. Or not bought, but programs, tickets, whatever. But she was so modest about the whole situation. She's like, really? She's like, do you know who I am? Yes. You're a Canadian legend. Of course. Everybody, you're the captain of Team Canada's Olympic champions. Yeah. Yeah, I think we know who you are. That was an awesome night too, man. Yep. That was a great night, honestly. It's my mom hasn't forgiven me for that because she was supposed to go with my dad, and I ended up being in town for whatever reason. And obviously someone decided Matt will get more out of this, but Mom has brought it up a time or two since then. That was her ticket that I took to go to the suite. Tell her she's had way more chances to get Bobby Orr's signature. Yeah, exactly. Right? She's had time. It's on you if you haven't gotten it done yet. And the other one that I remember, I know you were there the same night because you were the ones who'd gotten us up there. the night the building opened, the General Motors Center, you were up in the suite, the company suite.
Okay.
And so your dad had given me his 4 season tickets.
Okay, our regular seats.
Yes, down in the bowl.
Yeah.
So I came with 3 buddies.
Not to sound hoity-toity, like
down with the peasants.
Down with the peasants.
Below me.
Regular
Right.
seats. Our regular seats are like mid-bowl. Like
Yeah, no, they're good
straight on the
seats,
center.
but they're not a suite.
No.
Right? So I always remember this night just because I came down with 2 buddies that we grew up with in Oshawa who were
Millers?
Jenny's fans. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine, Mark, who we went to school with as well. And Mark is hilarious, but couldn't possibly care less about the Generals. But so he comes with us. And I don't remember if the first or second intermission, you had texted and said,
Come on up.
yeah,
Sneak up the back
up to the
way.
box.
Come on up.
I'll meet you at
Yep.
such and such
I've
stairwell
got
with
4
4 ticket
tickets.
stubs. We can
That's
get you
a lot
up.
harder to do now that digital tickets exist.
100%. I've got 4 people's phones
Yeah.
to give to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really work
No.
anymore. So we get up there, and there's all these construction business types hanging out up there with, you know.
Unfortunately, I'm one of them.
Yeah, but at the time, you're, I think, still a college guy. Like
No, I was full time.
You were just done? Okay.
Yeah, because we had full time.
I'd gone back to school, I guess. That's right. Yeah.
I was a civic guy.
That's right.
Full time.
So this was the opening night of the new arena. There's all these, whatever, graybeards and whatever going on.
And me.
Yeah. And this guy who I don't know. I know you know. I know my dad knows. I know your dad knows, whatever. I don't know who the hell this guy is. He looks like, remember those Islander jerseys that look like they had Captain Highliner on them from the mid-90s?
Is this the guy with the little glasses?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So he comes up and he shakes my hand. And I don't know if I'm supposed to know him or if he's just shaking my hand because that's what you do when you're... He shakes my 2 buddies' hands and he gets down to Mark. And they have a weirdly long handshake. And I do remember this guy giving you that construction guy squeeze handshake. You're like, all right, like, what are you doing here? Like,
Yep.
and so Mark comes up to me after this guy has turned and walked away and goes, that old guy tried to break me down, but I think I took him out. And apparently the extended handshake.
Mark is 20-something, and this guy's like 60
70,
or
whatever.
70, yeah.
And they're just grinding out this handshake, trying to squeeze the shit out of each other.
Wow. That's a privilege. Take down an old guy.
Yeah. He was pretty proud of it. He's like, that old guy tried to break me down, but I held tough for whatever he said. That's why we're probably not really supposed to be in these areas. No. Yeah. No, not welcome, man. So. But it's good times.
No.
It's always
great
fun,
times.
huh? Yeah.
No, I like sitting up there in those suites and enjoying the good times and the brews. And
Well, I've said 100 times after the company suite, we ended up with our family bought one.
family suite.
Basically, to see Elton John in Oshawa. You couldn't get tickets, so I guess we'll
just
buy
buy
a
a
suite for the
suite.
year.
Yeah.
And so there was all kind of events, including the debut of the Oshawa Power, a Canadian basketball league team that featured a point guard named Brandon Robinson.
Hey,
speaking
I'll take
of
it. I'm still.
speaking of
If you
Funhouse
Google
Mirror,
my name.
Yeah.
I definitely do not look the same.
you and Phil Kessel,
Google search.
not built for basketball, but this guy anyway. So
Well, he wasn't built for he's playing in Oshawa.
it was
Power.
at the that was
Not-
true. Our mascot was this weird orange Power Ranger. The whole thing was a bit of a scene, but you got with the box, you got tickets to whatever went on in the arena, right? So there was some cool concerts, a bunch of Jenny's games, obviously. But I have said this 100 times, man. One of my favorite things about that was the Sunday night game, which was almost always just you and I.
Yep. Nobody else was showing.
No one else was going out
They're
on
just
Sunday
there for
nights.
Elton John. So
Basically, and a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon game, people would come and or big concerts or whatever. But the Sunday night game in Oshawa is almost always at 6:00, and you and I would show up, usually just the 2 of us in this 14-person box or 12-person box, whatever it was, and we wouldn't pre-order anything other than a pizza and a beer or 2 each.
that was Sunday dinner.
So that was Sunday night dinner.
Yep.
And you'd be home in time for Family Guy at 9:00 or whatever. You love the 6:00 start. That was maybe my favorite part of that whole thing, was knowing that no matter, whatever you were doing that weekend, whether it was at the arena or not,
That's
it was a
where you're
decent
going.
way to wind down a Sunday night. You're not,
Still
again,
is,
it
bud.
sounds
Still
so,
is.
I know, it sounds so hoity-toity. You're not elbowing people in the bathrooms. You're not in line for hot dogs. You're in this box that you didn't pay for. You don't belong in, but it's just you and your buddy having a pizza, like splitting one pizza and a couple beers and then heading home.
Yeah.
great way to wind down a weekend, or even if it's just junior hockey. And it was great, man. It's good hockey. It's awesome to watch. I actually thought about this not too long ago. The last crowd thing I went to before the pandemic was you and I drove down to see the Jennies on a Sunday night in February of 2020.
Yep.
I drank too much Hoegaarden because you were driving. We stopped at the Waltzing Weasel on the way out and drove.
Legendary Oshawa place.
100%, man. And then drove home in a blizzard. And
For the record, I didn't drink that much.
No, that's what I mean. I had too much Hoegaarden.
Yeah, I think I had a shepherd's pie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were doing the driving, so I was like, you got to stay awake. Yeah, but I was so ready to pass out, and you had the heat just cranked in that truck.
I'm cold.
Because
I'm
it was
guy,
it was a blizzard too. Like it was brutally snowing, and I was like, everything about this screams, I want to pass. It's so hot. I'm so drunk, and that turned out to be my last big public outing for whatever 2-3 years, man. So we said those Sunday nights in the box. In Oshawa are a great way to wind down a weekend. This was a great way to wind down a weekend, man. I appreciate you helping out and jumping on today.
Not a problem.
We'll do it again because, I'm hoping to be here a few more weekends throughout the summer. So we know now you can jump in and tag in if you don't mind, man.
No, I don't. I truly enjoyed this. This is great. I fanboyed at your birthday the other day over Rob and said, and I even threw down, and I'll throw down on the pod that I think he's a better host than Maddie. Okay. Maddie and I have been friends for years, but Rob, you got a tough gig, but you do it well.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm
uncomfortable with the idea of anybody fanboying over Rob, though. I don't love that.
I bet Rob does.
No
Rob
doubt.
is like,
you'll never live that down.
No,
the next time you see him.
Yeah.
Can I sign that for you? So.
Oh, and they baited me into some awkward conversations there on.
They didn't bait you. You were happy to jump in.
That's true.
Yeah.
But then they twisted it. They twisted it.
Who was it?
They threw down who was a greatest guitarist. Not greatest.
Okay.
Who is a great guitarist? And I threw down Brad Paisley.
That's the one. That is the name I thought you would say.
Yes, I said he was a great guitarist. I didn't say he was the best ever.
Okay.
And they twist Rob and his brother. They do. They twist it and they turn it.
And they hold you out there.
They do. And I loved it. It was great. It was entertaining. But fuck them too. So.
We'll wind this one down here, man. Thanks again for doing it. I'm not sure what's going to happen later on this week. Things are sort of fly by night at this point. I wasn't really planning on still being at the lake this long, but as long as I am,
this is a hip town, man.
This is how we're going to do it. That's right, man. I'm here to see the constellations. Hope you all have a great week. Thank you for checking out this edition of the Tall Can Audio Podcast. For Brandon Robinson, my name's Matt Robinson. We'll see you next time.
That's it. I cannot work under these conditions. If anybody wants me, I'll be downstairs at McDougal's. Call the weekend guy. I don't care.